Guest here today.
Hey, Paul, good to be with you this morning.
Yeah, and John, you and I have gotten to know each other over the years, and that's why I'm so fired up for this discussion about what you're doing. And I want to let our viewers know as we get into this, your background. I want to get into what you're doing now. You've got a really incredible course I want to mention. So let's start with your background. How did you get started in business?
Sure, that's fine. I spent 38 years in the financial services industry, and I think I was one of those rare kids that thought he knew what he wanted to do when he got out of college. First
Right,
of all, I knew I wanted to go to college. That was a non-negotiable number one,
right.
and I wanted to be a stockbroker.
Oh, okay.
Was my only that was my only idea of what financial services was about,
Right.
from my dad. And so I wanted to be a stockbroker. And when I graduated from Cal State Long Beach with my bachelor's degree in finance, I went and at the age of 22 with a real baby face, went through almost 100 interviews where everybody
Oh
said
my.
no, 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 no. They all said, kid, go get some sales experience.
These were Wall Street firms, or you
These
want?
were Wall Street firms,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so anyway, finally was able to land my first job,
Oh,
financial services, and kind of did fairly well for a decade or so.
yeah.
Nothing really gelled, and then I through a series of experiences found myself being a wholesaler
Oh, okay.
for for a major life insurance company.
Right.
And the world changed just like this.
And in what way did the world change for you?
The world changed for me because I stopped trying to shove a square peg into a round hole. What
Hmm.
I realized years later was that I spent many, many years trying to get really good at something that I didn't like.
Oh, right, right.
So, to kind of take a step back for a second, I spent my first 10 years in a very analytical role. So
Hmm.
I am an analytical person,
Hmm.
but I'm much more of a people person and a problem solver.
Yes.
Um, and I had done a number of different jobs in the financial services world prior to landing at Pacific Life as a wholesaler. But that's when I just came alive.
Hmm.
That's when I got to do what I do best, which is focus on other people.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
So you did that for a number of years, and I know you had a lot of success there. And then where did you go from there? How did you get into the entrepreneurial endeavor, and how did you make that switch to what you're doing now? Let's talk about that. Wisdom from Dad.
yeah. So, I worked in the last 25 years of my financial services career. I worked for two different insurance companies,
Hmm.
and in the first role, it was very almost solopreneurish. I was the lone wolf. I was out there meeting one-to-one with financial advisors, doing, problem solving, and with the
Hmm.
ultimate goal of sales, right?
Yeah.
Um, I came up with the idea of coaching
Ah.
because in that world, just like most of the financial services professionals that I work with, a lot of people are starting over every January. Now,
Hmm.
with the folks that manage money, that have assets under management, et cetera, that's not quite so true. But in the life
Right.
insurance world, you're starting over every single January from
Right.
zero.
Right.
And so because I was naturally good at it, I started to inject some coaching, at least an element of coaching, into my world, and it was going very, very well. I wanted to do it formally,
Hmm.
and that particular company wasn't interested in that.
Right.
Opportunity came up with another company, and I jumped at it hesitantly, I would say, but I jumped at it.
Hmm.
And at Penn Mutual, I got an opportunity to run an organization. Instead of just being the solopreneur out there face to face with people, I was doing that, but I was also managing an outside sales team, an inside sales team, an inside case design department, and administrative folks, et cetera, and really got an opportunity to get a much more broad base of experience as a essentially as a business owner, right? And I was able to bring coaching formally into my organization.
Okay.
And that began the genesis of Wisdom from Dad. It was this element of coaching where I've always been a person who says, I want to give before I get. And some people criticize me as giving too much, but I don't really know that that's possible, to be honest with you, because what I find is that when I'm pouring good into one place, it doesn't necessarily have to come back from that place. It comes from somewhere else.
Yeah, totally agree.
So if I'm working with you and because you need something, then that seems to somehow get cosmically rewarded. I don't know how it works, but
Yeah,
that seemed to be my experience.
it's good karma. So then you started Wisdom from Dad. Tell me where that name came from, and then what is that business? What are you focused on?
So Wisdom from Dad, to me, you probably can see the little sign behind
I
me.
see it. Yeah, Dad. Yeah.
Dad. Okay. 32 years ago, almost 32 years ago, our first child was born. And that was when my life changed forever. I've got two kids, love them both equally. They're fantastic. But when child number one came along, my life changed. And I've always been a very hard worker and very much, dependable and trustworthy and all that kind of stuff. And a bit of a workaholic. And so I learned that with little ones at the house, I learned that I needed to have two hats. I needed to have the work hat and the dad hat. And that when I came home, the work hat had to come off, the dad hat had to come on. So Dad really became my persona. Okay. And I am an absolute lover of wisdom. And so when I was building out the coaching practice at Penn Mutual for my little region in California, it was to me a natural to combine these two elements of my persona of Dad and my love of wisdom. And you can see, there's a number of books behind me. That's just part of my library. I'm an avid reader, and that's
Right.
kind of how that came about. And
Love it. Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
Today I view Wisdom from Dad as let's call it a central hub for the collection, curation, and distribution of the world's great wisdom. Okay, and I'm looking for great stories. I'm looking for the best advice that I can find to collect it, curate it, and send it out.
Yeah, I love it. Love the whole idea of it. And so the business, then you're working with who exactly? I know other financial professionals, and how are you integrating with them?
Yeah, because of my 38 years in the financial services industry, I know that element very, very well. And so it's the natural place for me in the coaching world. Because I know what the struggles are. I've been a producer out in the field. I've been a wholesaler. I've been around that industry for so long, as a registered principal with FINRA. I understand the securities business and all of that. So it was a natural fit to focus on helping financial advisors. And so I've kind of got two things going on. So if you look at Wisdom from Dad, it's the broad-based umbrella with a big mission. It's far bigger than I am now, to be honest with you, because it is, I'm a big believer in setting big goals, is my big dream. And so Wisdom from Dad is the overarching big entity that is this central hub. Now, as a part of that, the coaching fits into it. The program that we run called Elevate Your Life and Accelerate Your Business, and the podcast that we're endeavoring to do is focused in that. Area. It's a subset. It's one area under the umbrella of Wisdom from Dad.
Yeah, love it. And the course, Elevate and Accelerate, let's talk about that, because it just looks like an incredibly dynamic course content. Tell me about the course, how it works, and who it's for.
Well, let's first talk about who it's for.
Okay.
On a broad base, it's for anybody.
Okay.
Okay. But when you look at who's going to get value from this, because there's a strong element of one-to-one coaching that takes place, and because my background is in financial services, that's the person that I'm looking to help. But the things that we talk about are applicable to everyone. And I'd like to say that if you got a big dream and you want to build a framework around it and have help to bring that big dream into fruition, then this course is for you. If, on the other hand, you don't have a big dream, but you have a strong desire to figure out what it is, this course is for you.
Is this a bit business dreams you're talking about here to accelerate in business?
You know, it's interesting. You can't, this is a business course, but you can't really be effective in business unless you become the most effective human being that you can become.
Oh, I agree with that. Yeah.
So you know, and that's, I think that's a really, really important point to bring out, Paul. We can, when we become more, then we have more that we can give. When we become a better, when we get closer and closer to becoming our best self, then it is, we have that much more that we can put out into the marketplace. So we're that much better for our clients and our prospective clients and our neighbors and our families, et cetera, et cetera. So although the course focuses on business, it also focuses on who am I? Who am I? What do I want? Because it all starts with what is it that I really want? What's my big dream? And getting clear on it. And to kind of circle back to who this is for. I told you the first two. You got a big dream. Let's work together and help you bring that out. You don't have a big dream, but you want one. You want to identify what it is that you're here to do, what your purpose is, your big mission, et cetera. This is for you. But also, what I find is, I'm sure this is true in any business, but this was definitely true in the financial services world. People plateau all the time.
Oh yeah.
You know, you start out in the business and you're on fire, and you know, and quite honestly, some people don't make it. You know, a lot of people in the financial
many don't
make it. So, and I will say that this course is not for that person. Okay, this course is for somebody who has achieved a level of success.
Okay.
So we start out in the business, we create some initial success, and then we plateau. Some people never get past that first plateau.
Right.
Well, we can help them do that.
Right.
But then there's the others who they'll camp there for a while on that plateau, and then they'll start to rise again. But then they plateau. And maybe that's comfortable. You know, we tend to spend our time where we're comfortable. So, you know, I like to say, let's get comfortable being uncomfortable. You and I were talking about this morning before we started to record this.
Yeah.
that it's all part of that growth process. So I help people grow to the level that they want to.
Yeah, and what I've loved as I've learned more about your focus in your course, John, is that comprehensive approach, business and the personal side, because I've seen, like you, so many times where business achievements are held back by something that's wrecked on the personal side. So leaving the personal side out, kind of, it just is not going all the way. So I love that aspect about it. I know you're a very introspective guy and dig deep with people you're helping and working with. So it's a fascinating course.
And it actually even works both ways. That you can, that the business is sabotaged because home isn't working.
Great point.
And it exactly the other way around, that home doesn't work because of business.
Yeah.
It's a reciprocal. You got to have it's a whole person approach.
Yep. And I know, John, you've got a live class coming up. When does that class start? I know we're going to put the information around this video. So for whoever's watching, whether depending on the channel you're watching, it's going to be up or below this video, the information to check it out. But tell us, John, when does this class start?
Yeah, it starts April 19th.
Okay.
And it's going to run for a total of 10 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
We take a 2-week reflection break in the middle. So it's really, I'm a firm believer in run hard and then recover. And that recovery process is time to reflect and say, all right, hey, are we on track? I got to that point from previous classes that I taught, where we'd get to the end and people wouldn't have gotten the benefit that they had anticipated. And the reason that they didn't was because they weren't clear on what their purpose was.
Yep.
We spend a ton of time at the beginning of this adventure, let's call it, really getting crystal clear on what you want. What do you want personally? What do you want professionally? And what does it look like? So we have 8 weeks of classroom instruction. It's all virtual.
Yes.
But classroom instruction. We have 4 one-to-one follow-ups. So we get in for 2 weeks, roll up our sleeves, do the hard work, figure out who am I, what makes me tick, and what is it that I want personally and professionally. We get really clear. We build a beautiful picture that we can get emotionally involved with. What I found is that when you look at really successful people, they had a big dream. They had an incredible why. Mm-hmm. They knew not only what they wanted, but why they wanted it. And you get that way by building this picture that you can get involved with emotionally. So we focus on that very, very heavily right up front. And once we've done that, we say, okay, we got a lot of work to do. We know what we want, and we know there's a gap, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, we have to identify, be clear at where we are. Yes. Identify this gap and put together a series of steps that we need to take in order to start closing that gap. So then once we've done that, we know that we've got a ton of work to do. So we better have our energy in order.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. You got to come.
If you're not clear, if you're sluggish, if you can't get out of bed in the morning, if you can't, you can't think straight, you can't focus, well, you're not going to accomplish what you've set out to accomplish.
Yeah.
Do that.
Yep. Great stuff. Yep.
And then it comes down to habits. Mm-hmm. We are what we habitually do. Mm-hmm. So success is really, it's a really simple process. It's very hard. Okay. There is no magic pill. There is no elixir that you can take that's going to get you to this next level. But if you're clear on what you're here to do, and you have your energy in order, and you start to refine your habits, what you habitually do, well, you're going to make it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what this thing is all about.
Mm-hmm.
So we spend the first half of the program on just that, looking deep at our habits, getting our energy to that point where we can actually do the work that's required and stay focused, etc. And we've got this big, beautiful picture of that we're in love with, of what we want to accomplish.
Right.
And then we take a little bit of a break and reflect and go back and ask, okay, is this really what I want?
So John, you mentioned taking this reflection break. You come back, then what happens?
Then what happens, Paul, is, everybody's clear on what it is that they want, and we're working in the right direction. We've taken a look at our habits. So now what we do is we say, well, in order to make all of this work, we need to create a masterpiece day. Okay. And so what does that look like? And so we go through all kinds of exercises to pinpoint when we're at our best, how are we performing? When you get, what time do you get up in the morning?
Mm-hmm.
What's your routine? Does it need to be adjusted, et cetera? We take a hard look at the existing routine and say, okay, is the existing routine going to get me where I want to go? For most of us, the answer is no. And so now what adjustments do we have to make? And we can't make them all at once, but we start identifying all the different things that we want to do. How do we want to exercise? What do we need to eat? And everybody is unique. There is no one way. It's really your way, but we bake that into your masterpiece day. Now, if you ask me, John, how many days a week are you living your masterpiece day? I would say not as many as I would like, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, we know what we're striving for. Life throws you off the rails, and so we address that too.
Mm-hmm.
As we go on to the course, we want to be able to get back on track, because when life throws us a curveball, we need to learn how to hit it.
Yes.
And when we swing and miss, we need to know what adjustments we have to make. So we put that into that process as well. And then we pull everything together and create really a masterpiece year. What do we want the next 12 months to look like? If we're going to, this is our big goal, and here's where we are today. We know there's this gap. We've put together a program that's going to help us to close that gap little by little by little. So what's the goal for the next year? And I like to break it down into 12-week periods.
Yeah.
Okay. And we'll basically do, or I'd call them maybe 13, because you run for 12 and reflect for 1, run for 12, reflect for 1, et cetera, and make the adjustments. So when we finish with this course, everybody walks away with their plan for not only the next 12 weeks, but for 4 12-week periods.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Think about 4 quarters, right?
Yeah.
Your plan, and this is your big plan for the year, but let's break it down: quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, and quarter 4. And we meet one-to-one. So we do all this stuff in the classroom, but we meet one-to-one to make sure that everybody's on track.
So there's a lot of accountability there.
Tons of accountability.
Yeah.
We meet 4 times. We meet one-to-one after week 2. We meet one-to-one after session 5. We meet at the end of the course, and then we meet again 12 weeks later.
Oh, okay.
And that way we're helping. And this is I think really important, because I don't know anybody else that is doing this in the coaching industry.
No.
Either you're coaching one-to-one or you are holding a class, but the mixture of the two, I think, is pretty unique.
It's powerful. Yeah.
Especially since we're meeting again in 12 weeks to make sure that people can make a transition from one period to the next. And obviously, if people want to want to engage beyond that, that's certainly available. But it's a really powerful process that I'm quite honestly very proud of.
You should be. Yeah, it's fantastic. Well, John, thanks so much for being here. Great discussion. Again, for those viewers, John's information is around this video, either up here or down below. Course information is there. Connect with John, follow him, get to know this guy. He's very dynamic. John, I know we'll be tracking your progress and we'll be talking again.
Thanks, Paul. It's great to be with you today.
Okay.